Welcome to my webinar about depression. My goal for this webinar is to educate you about depression and antidepressants as a form of treatment. I think that most people are aware about the prevalence of depression in the United States, but in case you're here and you're not, here's a couple important facts. I think it's most important to note that depression is 100% treatable. There are many different ways to treat depression, and 1 in 6 adults will actually experience depression at some point in their lives. So it's definitely important to know what your options are when it comes to treatment. There is a huge mistrust among so many of our youth when it comes to Western medicine. It's hard to understand why this is the case when Western medicine has done so much good for the modern world, like prolonging lifespans and curing many deadly diseases. So why question the effectiveness of antidepressants? Antidepressants are a safe and effective option for people who experience severe depression, yet so many people who suffer from depression have never even tried antidepressants as an option. There are a lot of false beliefs and stigmas surrounding antidepressants. This is harmful because it keeps people from getting the help they need. False beliefs include things like thinking that antidepressants will make you numb or emotionless, they'll change your personality or permanently alter your brain. This is all untrue. In fact, 70% of depressed people notice a huge improvement on their depression in just a few weeks of taking antidepressants. So here's the actual science behind what antidepressants do for the brain. So in a regular brain, you have a presynaptic neuron, a postsynaptic neuron, and what those do is, here I'm going to draw. The role they have is the presynaptic neuron creates serotonin, what you can think of as kind of like a happiness hormone, which it then releases out into this gap called the synapse gap, this gap here. And then once the serotonin is floating around here in this gap, it is either absorbed here into the postsynaptic neuron, so here, or it is reabsorbed back into this presynaptic neuron. But the serotonin that is received by this postsynaptic neuron then goes on through here to have a positive effect on the brain. So the brain receives the message that the serotonin sends to it, but in a brain that is depressed, there is not enough of this available. So theoretically, antidepressants will create more serotonin to be released and absorbed by the postsynaptic neuron in the brain, which is good. So many people experience those positive effects of antidepressants within just a matter of a few weeks. It can take longer, but for the most part, most people will experience it relatively quickly. So antidepressants, of course, aren't the only solution behind treating depression. There's many other ways to treat depression, like healthy eating habits or exercise habits. But it's also important to determine whether it's a chemical imbalance or a circumstantial reason behind your depression. because it's normal to get depressed if you have like a death in the family or something like that. But a chemical imbalance means that you can have everything good going in your life, a great career, great relationships, good family, and yet you are still experiencing depression, which, for the reasons that I was talking about before, it's because you don't have enough serotonin or dopamine in the brain. But either way, antidepressants are effective for both circumstantial and chemical imbalances. So if you or a loved one is suffering from severe depression and have already tried everything else, antidepressants are a great option for treating depression, a great and safe option, which is something that should be discussed with a qualified medical professional. Antidepressants don't have to be a permanent long-term solution. Many people find that antidepressants are the crutch they need to feel good enough to create the healthier habits that promote happiness, like healthy eating, like I said before, or working out. Then once it's a habit, you can try to getting off them, and a lot of people go on to live happy lives without the use of a long-term prescription. So my final point is that severe depression is deadly, and if you can find something that would help you feel better in just a matter of weeks, then don't let the stigma surrounding antidepressants discourage you. Talk to your doctor and get help. Remember that there is always hope, even when depression has convinced you otherwise.